But even if he does that and he's correct and it's true and he uses deadly force in self-defense and it's technically 100% legal, the next step is other people are making their assessment. The cops who arrive on the scene are asking the same question. The prosecutor, when he gets the investigative report, is asking the same question and coming to his own decision. The judge is doing that. The jury is doing that. And none of those people were actually there, right? None of them have personal knowledge of what happened. All they can do is look at the available evidence and try to make reasonable inferences from the evidence. But one of the reasons you can do everything right and still get convicted is because those people are looking at different things than what you looked at. The guy sitting in the car with the gun in his lap, he's seeing and experiencing something different than what we're seeing and experiencing when we're watching the video his wife is making on the call, right? Could be 100 different things. Could be alcohol on that other dude's breath. We're not going to get that on a cell phone video, right? It could be some prior history he might have with this dude. That's not captured on the cell phone video, right? Maybe there's a people known to them. Maybe there's some existing animus here. There's lots of factors that could be considered that we wouldn't know, that a jury might not know. And a lot of this stuff that might be evidence might not be, the judge might say that's not admissible in court. So the jury's never even going to hear about any of that kind of stuff. It may be known to the defender, it's playing a role in his decision-making, but when the jury has to come to its decision, they don't know. Maybe this defender is well-trained. Maybe he has a lot of knowledge about guns and tool or drill and terminal ballistics and all this kind of stuff. The jury doesn't have any of that. The jury will not know any of that. So when the jury's making its calculation about what's reasonable, whether that legal question has been answered in the affirmative, they could easily arrive at a different answer than the defender. I mean, like I mentioned before, the risk of getting convicted, even if you do everything perfectly, is always greater than zero. So I just tell people, if you get in a gunfight, no matter how legally justified you may be, just assume you're going to get convicted. Assume you're going to get convicted. You're going to be sentenced to 10, 20, 30, maybe life in prison. There are things that are worth a life sentence in prison. I would rather be serving life in prison than watch my wife get murdered next to me, for example. But it's not a very long list of things. And I would need to be very, very convinced that I was willing to incur possible life in prison before I pulled that trigger in an act of self-defense. Now, if I was convinced, I would have no hesitation about pulling that trigger. And this is something I've thought about all my adult life. I look at these use of force scenarios and I know the law and I shoot reasonably well. And I think to myself, what would I do in this circumstance? Is this one of those circumstances where I would feel it? One of the most disturbing parts about this video in Port St. Lucie was when that guy in the driver's seat starts saying, should I shoot him? Man, you should not be asking other people that question. You need to be asking yourself that question. And you need to have asked yourself that question long before you find yourself in this scenario. If you're asking someone next to you that question, you're not the guy who needs to have the gun. You just are not prepared for that confrontation, not mentally prepared for that confrontation.
It's that's the backstop for his bullets. Like, is that a transaction I'm willing to partake in?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know about you. I look at stuff like that, knowing what we know from the video. I'm like, why didn't you just peel off down a side street and drive to Walmart for 10 minutes, or drive to the local police station, or drive drive away? And this guy was following them, I guess. So I found a little bit out. I told you before the call, I got a phone call from the neighbor of the driver. And sometimes this stuff happens. I'm sure it's happened to you, where somebody will see something you post and then you get an email or a phone call. So this guy emailed and called me, and apparently which for us, the viewers, you can comment on this. Like, a lot of this stuff is immaterial to what happened, but apparently that the driver in the BMW or the Mercedes had done some violent crap in the neighborhood previously. So your comment about like previous knowledge, like they know this guy's a hothead, they know he's prone to violence, but they just were trying to go home, and apparently he's following them and like passing them and getting behind them, and like they're doing some like Frogger bullshit on the road trying to get away from each other. But then the driver pulls into his own neighborhood, the pickup truck, Like, why'd you go home? Why'd you like let this guy follow you home down this like little tiny side street? So it's like I'd have never stopped either. I'm in a pickup truck and you're in a little car. As soon as you hit the brakes, I'd have taken a mailbox out. I'd have drove in
Right.
somebody's lawn.
Honey, we're going
And
to Disney.